Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Turner and I'm a second grade teacher in suburban Wilmington, Delaware. And I'm thrilled to be here today to share my presentation, Starting Strong, with you. So thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy it and let's get going. All right, here's a little bit about me. I was a career changer. I didn't become a teacher until I was 40 years old, after I worked in the business world. And I do have degrees in elementary ed and gifted education. I've been teaching second grade since 2010. I've won a few awards, as you can see there. And I'm really an SEL, social emotional learning warrior. That's one of my primary identities, and I advocate for SEL. I present about it. I consider myself an expert on it, and that's why I'm here talking to you today on this topic. I'm also a trainer for the Fostering Resilient Learners team. There's a picture of me in South Africa enjoying a beautiful Bayside setting after a lunch I had there with other teachers when I traveled there as a fellow in 2019. All right, so our goals for today. What I'd like to do is help us acknowledge and accept where we are today. Okay, notice it and not judge it. I want to identify strategies for moving forward. We are coming out of one of the most challenging years in educational history. We're working our way through the biggest disruption to the education system in recent times. And so if we try and pretend that that's not what's happened, we're going to be in big trouble. We need to say and see where we are and then figure out how to move forward. So we're going to talk about that today. And then also as we go, we're going to engage in some personal reflection. So one thing I'd love for you to have with you today is some way to journal. And it can be anything. It can be your phone, it can be the Notes app, it can be a piece of paper that you scribble on, it can be like a little notebook or something. It can be, you could pause the presentation and go out to a document where you're typing, just a way to kind of process some of what we're thinking and talking about, a way to get those thoughts down as we go through today. All right. We're going to begin with some common beauty. I this year have discovered the power of nature in really setting a calm tone in my classroom, and I've seen it work wonders with the students I work with and myself. So this is just a quick video of a sunrise in South Africa that I took when I was there. So let's enjoy that.
This is so awesome.
I know, it's gorgeous. It's incredible.
And that's my roommate and I talking. This was steps outside of our hotel on a game preserve in South Africa, where we went on safari after we traveled for our field work with the other teachers. Truly, truly magical. I want to also do a quick check-in. I found check-ins to be a really valuable way to connect with my students and also at adult trainings and events. So if you could take a look at this chart and then just note how you're feeling today, that would be wonderful. So this, of course, is on this sheep scale. How do you feel today? I have never seen a check-in like this until this year, okay? And somebody figured out that doing these visual check-ins with pictures was a great way to reach people with more time on Zoom. And so this is one of the first ones I ever did, and I love it. And I'm going to tell you that I'm at a 9 today, all right? I'm identifying with sheep 9 because I'm really excited to be doing this presentation and be here with you. We used this visual in a staff survey we did back in December, and people loved it. People said that the minute they saw this visual, they felt better. So I just want to ask you guys on the sheep scale, how are you feeling? My students sometimes tell me, I feel like 2, 4, 6, and 7 today. So it might be one or more of the sheep pictures. And just for your reference, if you're working with students or working with adults, they're great ways to start staff meetings and other things. They have them for celebrities, Oprah, Taylor Swift, video game characters, animals, nature, movie characters, Disney, you name it. So no matter who you're working with, you can use these visual check-ins, and they're just a lot of fun. So, all right. Today, we're going to be talking about social emotional learning, and I'm going to call this whole presentation an adult SEL moment. So we talk a lot about social emotional learning, how to bring it into the classroom, but I think a really key component of social emotional learning, helping it come alive in classrooms and school settings, is that we do the work ourselves. If we don't understand the work and dig into it, we're never going to be able to ignite it in an authentic and powerful way in our different education settings. So this visual comes from CASEL. CASEL stands for the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. These are the 5 competencies that make up social emotional learning. It's funny, a few years ago, I was doing a presentation on SEL, and I was trying to remember them, all 5 of these, and I couldn't for the life of me. I was thinking of all these mnemonic devices, and I just couldn't get it right. That was like 3 years ago. They are burned into my brain forever. I don't even have to hesitate. We are talking about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. So as we go through our journey here today with this presentation, we're going to be keying in on certain ones of those certain competencies. So look at that visual, really think about it, pause the video if you need to. I feel like everyone should kind of commit it to memory and understand what it's about, because that's how we become successful human beings, whether we're kids or adults. All right, so we're looking at the word strong, okay? And this presentation is called Starting Strong. So we've got to have a way to go from here to there. And here's where we are right now. And there is the beginning of next school year. It's going to be August or September 2021. And I think we have a lot to go through and process before we get there. So I just decided to look at the word strong and really ask, okay, what does the word strong mean? It's a familiar word. We use it all the time, but how would you break it down in terms of language? So just looked it up. We've got mentally powerful or vigorous, especially able, competent, or powerful in a certain field or endeavor, physically vigorous or robust, of great moral power, fitness, or courage, and accompanied by great physical, mechanical power or force. So that word power just kept leaping off the page at me. So I decided to highlight it. So if we're thinking about the word strong and the concept of strength, I think it's about accessing our own power to be able to do something and do it well. So I want you to keep that in mind. Today is about accessing our power to figure out where we are and then how to get ready for where we're going. All right, so we'll keep that in mind. And then I went totally old school. I went acrostic poem. I'm using all the letters in the word strong, and I was assigning meaning to them based on an idea we're going to look at today. So S stands for self, and we're going to get into each of these areas. T is for team. R is for reflecting. O is for owning it. Oh yeah, we got to own it. N is for now what? And then G is go and grow with goals. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to examine the word strong, that concept of power, through the lens of these ideas that correlate to the word. Hope that works for you guys. Okay, so let's get started with self. All right, here's my question. Where are you right now? And be honest, be completely honest. Grab your journal or whatever device you need to and think about, where are you right now? And I want you to think about these ideas: personally, professionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. I want you to think about all that, because that makes us us. It makes us who we are, all these key components. And I want you to think about it honestly, even if that's hard. So I'll just share a little for myself, reflecting on how I'm doing. Personally, I'm good. I have a really strong family system, and everyone in my family is healthy and, able to function right now. So that's a good thing for me personally. Professionally, I feel like I've grown a lot this year. I've worked hard to be adaptive and flexible and try new things while trying to meet the needs of my students. So I'm really, really proud of that growth that I've experienced this year. It's my 11th year as a teacher, and I don't think I've grown as much or worked as hard in maybe since year 1. Mentally, I am exhausted. I am really, really tired. You might want to call it fried, depleted. I am just really tired. So I know that I need to recover this summer, and I'm already planning on how to do that. And I am not going to say that like I'm not exhausted by this, because I have been. And I can imagine that every educator, every administrator, every counselor, every person who works in an education setting hasn't been able to do their job the way they want to. Okay, and that's resulted in some type of depletion. Every school secretary, every nutrition or custodial worker, everyone at district office, everyone at departments of education, everyone has been in problem solving mode for over a year now, and that depletes you. That takes a surge, right, to get through. So everyone's got to be somewhat impacted by that. So please be honest with yourself about where you are. I know that I'm not, in really bad shape, but I do worry more about certain things than I used to. Also, because we have 2 teenage kids, I worry about their social skills, how they're doing, because their moods are more up and down than you might imagine with all of this. So I'm just aware of that, and I'm okay with it. Physically, yeah, I mean, geez, I got to lose 10 pounds, okay? I turned 50 during quarantine. It's the year of COVID, but I am taking steps to address that little by little. So I'm aware that I need to do something about that too, and hopefully I can get it done this summer. And I feel like, otherwise I'm okay. So I'm not all rainbows and unicorns, like not everything's great, but I'm honest about where I am. And once I know that, I know how I can move forward. All right. So if you need to pause the video and just jot down a few notes or do some deep reflecting, type a couple notes into your phone and think about, where you are right now. To help you with this, I use an activity called Rose and Thorn. I use it in staff trainings, adult trainings, and also with my kids. And it's the idea of we've all got things that are going well and we've all got things that aren't going well. So when you do the activity Rose and Thorn, you think about one good thing and then one hard thing. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you to think about one good thing and one hard thing right now to start the process. If you'd like to adapt this activity for an adult training or with your students, just Google Edutopia 10 community building ideas, and they've got a section on Rose and Thorn. So Rose and Thorn might be like a rose is, today the sun is out and it's nice weather. A thorn is that I'm worried about my daughter because her anxiety has been flaring, and I'm hoping that she can hold it together for the last few weeks of school, that kind of thing. It might be really simple, like a rose is I didn't burn the toast, and a thorn is that I can't find my sneaker. Like it can be super, super simple, but that can help us just start to put to life ideas around what's hard and what's going well, which is important. And then once you figure out where you are, be mindful. And the way that I am mindful is that I notice things, but I don't judge them. Okay. So I had a mindfulness training several years ago, and the trainer, who was awesome, said to be mindful is to notice and not judge. So that's what I'm trying to do. So even though I need to get my physical health in better shape and I need to restore myself mentally because I'm depleted, I'm not going to tell myself that I suck because I need to do those things. I'm just going to say, hey, that's where I am, and I'm going to move forward. So I want you to think about where you are. Think about the idea of where you are versus where you want to be, because you're going to need that idea to set goals, because in between where you are and where you want to be, there's space. And in those space, that's where goals go. So think about where you are, notice it, but do not judge it. And we tell this to our kids all the time. We say, hey, let me know how you're feeling. But if you're feeling really awful this morning, or you're not in your learning brain, or you're having a tough time, I'm not going to judge that. You're not going to judge that. We're just going to figure out what to do about it. So that's what I want you to do with this as well. And if you need to pause the video and think a little bit more deeply, please go for it and do that. Okay, so here's the model, the castle model with the competencies. Which competency did we just work on? We worked on self-awareness, because we want to notice our thoughts, feelings, and emotions and think about how they affect our words, our lives, everything else. So that was a good deep moment into self-awareness. And the better we can get with self-awareness and the more self-aware we can become, I think the more successful we can be. So that's what we just did in that little section. And you're becoming an SEL expert already just by doing that. All right, let's move on down the word strong. We're on T, so we're going to think about team. And when I really tried to think deeply about team, I broke team down into several types of teams, because we've got multiple teams that impact our lives. So let's go through them one at a time. We have our peers. Okay, so those are people that you work with. All right, and I want to ask you these questions. Okay, have you checked in with them? How are your peers doing? All right, how can you be supportive and empathetic? Have you been a good team member to those on your team? Have you checked in? Have you helped out? Have you just asked, how are you, and really listened? And then the last idea is, how would they describe you? So I think this is a really hard one, but a really important one. I would say that people would tell me this year that I've been like a little more extra than in previous years. I've been more tired and more depleted. So I've been like a little bit more raw. So I haven't tried to hide that. I've actually tried to own it and say, yeah, this is where I am. So if someone described me that way, I'm okay with that. I get it. I still want to, on the other side of that, be someone who's supporting, loving, and empathetic. So think about how people describe you. And if you have to, ask people. Be like, how have I seen this year? Am I different? And then just listen to what they say. You can kind of learn some valuable things about yourself by listening to other people as they try and share how they understand you. So I think that's something that's important. We also have our family team. So again, here's another question that's similar. How is your family? How are they doing? We've got 2 teenagers. They are very, very up and down. It's really been a rocky roller coaster. My husband's been working from home for over a year. He really, really wants to go back. So I think once summer's here, he's going to go back, even if he's got empty hallways at his office for certain days. He just needs to get back into that routine. So how do you empathize and support your family? We definitely come together for meals. We have casualized our dinner. We sit around like a fire pit or on a porch or in a living room instead of at the kitchen table. It's just something that we did during this time, and it's helped us be like kind of more relatable to each other. We've also done marathon watching of Survivor. So it's our metaphor, I guess, for surviving. And so just by staying connected, we are, I think, supporting each other that way. And same kind of question, if your family had to describe you right now, how would they do it? Okay, would it be different than it was a year and a half ago? What kind of words would you hear? And then once you hear them, don't judge it, but notice it and be like, okay. So if they describe me like this, what does that mean? Is there something I need to do about that? Or am I okay with that? Can I sit with that? All right. And then of course you've got your friends, and thank goodness for our friends. Here's some questions, reflection questions. Are you in touch with friends, old and new? Are people reaching out to you, and can you connect with friends despite differences? I mean, we've got so many social issues going on right now. We have things coming, we're living through huge news events around racism and things like that. People have divided views. Can you still see the humanity in others despite those differences? Are you still connecting with different people in your neighborhood or in your church or in your work community? And friends, old and new. Zoom, I always say, thank goodness it wasn't 1987 when all this happened, right? At least we have Zoom and we can connect with people. So we've been in this kind of phase for so long, it can make us nervous about connecting again. So I've been a little bit more intentional about that, my husband as well. And so we're hoping to get some things going back in our community now that we're heading into an easier time, revitalizing like the block party, things like that. So just think about that. How's everything with your friends? And then with students, so most of us are here, we're in educational settings, or we're in a setting where we're supporting people. So like your people that you're supporting, what have you modeled for them this year, right? Have you modeled resilience? Have you modeled being real? Have you been supportive while you've been having a tough time? How would they describe you? And have you shown empathy and grace? I think I have modeled calm with technology problems like 42 billion times this year, because every time, a lot of times we try and do something in education and we have Zoom and technology issues. And I've modeled, on the hardest days when things were just like, seemed impossible, I just tried to stay calm. And I felt like sometimes at the end of the day, if all I could say was I stayed calm today, that was the win, right? And so think about how you've modeled that for whoever you support in your space, whether it's students or people in the healthcare industry, or your customers, whatever it is. So some more reflection questions. So that's T is for team. And I would invite you to journal now as well. Pause the video, write down some thoughts, think about peers, family, friends and students, or who you support. Use all those lenses and think about how it's going with them. Okay, and that's another important piece of where are we right now. Okay. One more thing I want to add is that responding with empathy is super important, especially right now. So here are some guidelines to responding with empathy. And I really got close to these ideas when I had to figure out how to be a better parent to a daughter with anxiety. I am an extrovert that doesn't have anxiety, and I'm parenting a daughter who's an introvert with anxiety. So that renders us like so far apart, and I had to figure out how to be supportive. And a lot of these ideas here helped me be better. I know, because she's told me that I'm better. So these are things to think about as you think about interacting with others. The platinum rule, a lot of times we do and say what we think people want or need, not what they want or need. So the golden rule says do unto others as you would have others do unto you. The platinum rule says do what they want. And if you don't know what they want, ask them. What do you want? What do you need? What can I give you right now? And sometimes they just want someone sitting near them quietly, or they want people to listen, not to try and fix everything. Ask open-ended questions. How are you? Are you okay? What do you need? Can I do something for you? Okay. And then setting aside the reaction is so important. Seeing and hearing others' reactions first before your own, super important when you're supporting people and empathizing. Use I statements to avoid blame. All right. So I feel worried. I feel sad. I am upset. I am nervous. I'm not doing what you need me to do. Those statements will be incredibly useful. And then you can let the person you're supporting use the I statements as well. Actively listen when someone is talking. So we got to put that phone away. We got to have eye contact. We got to have a relaxed body position so we can nod. We can really communicate that we are listening with them. We're not just trying to get to the next task while they're attempting to tell us something. And this one was like made for me. There should be like red blinking arrows over this one. Don't jump into fix it mode. I'm always like, okay, so why don't you try this? What about this? What about that? And that's not what people need when they're hurting. So just listen and understand can really be helpful. And then validating feelings. I tell my daughter that feelings are like visitors to your home relatives. They stay for a couple days and then they leave. So feelings will do the same thing. We just need to get through having them or sitting with them. So these are just some ways to activate our empathy and our power to be empathetic humans to others around us. All right. So the SEL competency that we just went through was social awareness, because social awareness is all about empathy, and empathy is feeling with another, right? It's not sympathy. It's not feeling sorry for you like, oh, that's terrible. That sucks. It's saying, I understand that. I'm here with you. What can I do? So you just became even more of an SEL expert by focusing on social awareness with that whole activity of reflecting on the various pieces of team in your life. All right, here we go. We're going to keep going. Oh, and we also worked on self-awareness because we had to look inside and see, really think about ourselves in the context of team. And all of that matches up with relationship skills because we're talking about the human beings in our lives. So if we're good at this awareness around how we are with people, and we're socially aware around what people are going through and thinking and feeling, then our relationships are going to be stronger, right? So that activity really hit several of the competencies, which is just great. Okay, we're working our way down the word strong. We're at R, reflecting. So now it's time to reflect. So again, we're not going to judge. We're not going to get all judgy, but we are going to reflect on where we are. So I say you got to reflect on the good. What's going well right now? Think of something you were able to savor recently, something enjoyable, and think about what makes you smile. So during all of this, I've asked my family to focus on 3 good things on a couple times a week. And again, when we have tough days or things don't go right, we try and pick out some things that went well. And again, it's not like all rainbows and unicorns, like everything's great. It's like, yeah, I'm having a tough time, but here's some good things. And just like with Rose and Thorn, it could be something really small, like the sun is out. I did not burn the toast. What's going well? Maybe, a student's having academic success, but they're struggling with social success, or vice versa. Okay. Think of something you were able to savor recently. I mean, just small things like a walk with the dog or time sitting with loved ones. For me, I love seeing flowers in bloom in the spring. Nature has been like a really powerful, kind of like calming idea for me in the last year and a half. So I just can savor seeing natural beauty. And what makes me smile? We can always find something to make us smile. We can always find something to make us smile. So just stopping and noticing these things will be helpful. If you have your journal, I'd like for you to answer just at least one of these questions, or more if you want, in the journal, and just put like a little star next to it, because that is something that is good. Also good for me this year, huge growth and innovation in technology, growth mindset, taking risks, figuring out how to do things, all really, really good for me professionally. All right. That said, we do need to reflect on the bad. Now, we're not going to judge it and freak out, but we're going to say, yes, some things did not go really well. So think, what's not going great? Think of some recent disappointments. We all have them. And think about what you're worrying about these days. We have to normalize bad feelings and tough feelings and tough emotions and feelings where we're not at 100%. We have to do it. We tell our kids to do it all the time. We want to do it for them. But if we don't do it ourselves, we're missing a piece of this whole idea. So you can, again, in your notes, just jot down what's not going so great, right? Think of some recent disappointments. What are you worrying about? I worry almost constantly about our kids because of their social development in all this. And my husband will remind me, but hey, I know you're worrying about that, but this is good. This just happened. Our son just did this. Our daughter's doing this. And he's right. He kind of pulls me out. So if you need to have like a thought partner to help you with this, make sure you do. But just let's normalize that some things aren't going well and the fact that that is A-okay. R is also for reframing, and reframing is one of my favorite strategies ever. Reframing says that we're going to look at a situation and we're just going to look at it differently through a different lens. The facts around the situation do not change, but the way we look at it does. And we can reframe negative thoughts into positive ones, or sometimes we can reframe negative thoughts just to baseline neutral thoughts, right? Like we don't have to make it positive, but we can get out of the basement of negative thinking with reframing. All right, so we want to see things through another lens, tease out the good, and then find and name the wins. So again, a few things. I was teaching second grade from this room for months at the beginning of the year. So I'll reframe that and say, yeah, I could sleep a little later. I could dress casually. I could, go hug my son on a break. I could bring my husband a glass of water. I could meet family in the kitchen for lunch. Those were some nice things about being here, even though it was super hard to teach from home. So that's reframing that situation. And, I'll reframe everything by saying that our family spent a lot of time together, and in some ways we're maybe closer, maybe more tolerant of each other, because we've gotten through this and we've figured out some ways to keep things positive. So R is for reflecting and also for reframing. All right, I'm going to do something called a mini break. I have used this in my classroom this year. Mini breaks are very important when you're on Zoom a lot because you can get Zoom fatigue and we have to get up and get moving. One of my devastations this year is that teaching in person, I used to get up to like 15,000 steps a day, and now I can barely get 5,000. So I've used mini breaks a lot to keep my students engaged and to help myself with Zoom fatigue. So this is a slide I actually use in my classroom. And these are some things you can do during a 1-minute mini break. I'm just going to play this little video here for you and go ahead and please don't go far, but please take a 1-minute mini break. All right, so that was the mini break, and I got up. I was able to look out my window, check out some nature. It is a beautiful blue sky today, and then I just had, 40 seconds with my dog Bella, and I gave her a treat. So mini breaks work wonders. All right, so let's go back to SEL by doing that reflecting and reframing, which competencies we were working on. Self-management. So when we have a tough time, when we have a lot of negative thoughts, we can manage ourselves by using reframing as a strategy. And whenever I'm trying to use a new strategy, I set goals around it. When I first heard about reframing, I was like, okay, I've got to get reframing into my life. How am I going to do this? And I might set a goal and say, I'm going to reframe a negative thought one time today. And I would set that goal for a couple of weeks, and I would do it either at school or at home. And then if I did reframe, I was like, yes, I reframed. And then I would up my goal and say, well, now I'm going to reframe twice a day, once at home and once at school. And then constantly you try and increase that. So I would reframe at school once in the morning and once after lunch and once at home. So now reframing really is a part of my personal practice and does help me stay focused on what's good and get out of negative thinking traps. So, and we all have a negativity bias, so that's super important to be able to do that. Also, when you reflect and you choose to reframe, you're making a good decision, because we know that when we're stuck in negative thought patterns, it's going to keep us in a less effective place. We have stress hormones coursing through our body versus happiness hormones, or hormones cause release with positive thinking and positive activities. So this is actually a responsible decision for our well-being. All right. Okay. We're getting through the word strong. Let's keep going. So now we have to own it. So now we have to say, okay, this is the deal. Here's where I am. I'm not going to pretend that this is not happening or not real. And I'm going to own it. And then I'm going to talk about and think about moving forward. So how do we own it? We just have to own it. We just have to say, here I am. This is my current state right now. I'm starting to think about how to go forward, but this is where I am and I'm good with it. So if someone tells you that, like, maybe you're a little off or you're a little raw or you're a little different, just say, yep, I know I am. That's cool. I'm good. Because you don't want to pretend that you're not. You want to just say, yeah, I'm owning it and I'm doing something about it, right? I'm processing it, or I'm working to change it, or I'm just saying, hey, this is just where I am right now. So own it however you need to, right? Own it by telling someone about it, or journaling it, or writing it down, or sharing it, doing a video blog, whatever it is. Just own it. Just own where you are right now. And please don't judge it. Just own it. Embrace it. Give it a hug, actually. Okay. As part of the process, I think we need to grieve. All right. So this visual is from a presentation I did over a year ago when we first were facing COVID and lockdown. And it was all about empathy. And it was about saying it is okay to grieve the absence of what's gone. Okay. So this is what we were dealing with in 2020, canceled trips. We were supposed to go on a very big vacation for my 50th birthday. We did not go. And then here's some other just little small things, baby showers, graduations. We know the graduations were devastating last year for a lot of kids. Having birthday parties, we had to deal with drive-through birthday parties and putting signs on the lawn. Your personal freedom, your time with loved ones, especially older loved ones. Maybe your wedding, your birth plan, a stable paycheck, all these things. It's okay to say, I am hurting and grieving because these things were gone, and saying what they are. Okay. Again, not suppressing it, but just saying it. So now I want to ask you, what are you grieving from the past school year? Okay. Like, think about that really honestly. Like, what do you miss the most? And I really try to think about this with intention. Here's one thing that I missed, and I'm being so honest. I missed drinking coffee at school without a mask. I miss walking around with coffee in the morning, saying hey to everybody, because I love coffee. And I just felt like that was so hard. I can't even just sit here or stand here without a mask on, just drinking coffee freely. I had to put the mask up and down and everything. So that was just something little that I missed. So I'm going to own that and say, yeah, I miss that. I miss working with students directly, closely. Sometimes you need proximity to, like, sit near them, stand near them, show them something. And you know, that's hard to do when you have desks spaced apart and a plexiglass shield in front of your desk. So I missed that as well. I know many people told me that they did. I actually went out on social media and I asked teachers, what did you miss the most? And these ideas stem from a lot of what the responses were. People missed seeing kids, like, with their heads together, like kind of huddled around work together, working in pairs, working in groups. I used to have kids sprawled out on the floor all around my classroom, filling out graphic organizers together, reading together, talking about things. And I just missed that. I had tables previously with kids at tables, and now I have, standalone desks. So I just miss seeing kids working together because I know that fuels them and that's so important for them. People missed having lunch with friends. People missed eating lunch in the faculty room, just sitting and eating lunch with people. It's real. People missed smiles. They talked about this so much, and I miss smiles too. You can kind of tell the smiles happening under the mask because you got the little eye crinkles, but genuine kid smiles of all ages. Administrators and teachers too. Totally missed all that. And then here, like, just teaching live with circle time or a carpet or kids rounding up, just being able to teach in that regular way, I certainly miss that. So think about what you missed the most. What are you grieving in the context of your space? And I want you to bring that to mind and like see it, feel it, and own it, because we can't pretend we're not grieving things. Again, I think every single person in an education space did not get to do their job the way they wanted to this year. And that's a big, big thing. All right. So what I'm going to say is what was lost. Okay. Oops. Let me move my webcam over here. What are you grieving? What didn't happen? Okay. I didn't get to open up a classroom library and see kids with books in their hands. That devastated me. That was just devastating to me. What did you desperately miss this year? So many things. We missed in-person faculty meetings. What? Who ever missed a faculty meeting? But we did. Zoom was good in some ways, but we missed being together. I want you to say it out loud, and I want you to name it. Okay? And I want you to reflect on it, feel it, grieve it, and then leave it behind. Because if we don't own, again, all that we're missing and all that was hard and leave it behind, we'll never be able to move forward. So I want you to say it, name it. I'm doing that right now. I'm doing that right now. And then I'm going to leave it behind so I can be fresh and full and refueled for next year. I have to. All right. O is for owning it. So which competency did we just look at? Again, that reflection piece, that self-awareness, thinking deeply about how we feel, awareness about our thoughts, about what we are grieving and what we are missing. Okay, and that's a way to manage things, manage those thoughts, see them, name them, and that's a responsible decision. Because if you hold it in or you pretend like nothing was difficult or I'm fine, what is that? That's not going to get us anywhere. So it's all part of this formula for helping us be successful and move forward. Okay, we're getting there. Now what? So you're like, what are we doing now? So now we've got to have that roadmap of moving forward, right? And I said that N is for nurture. Okay, now what? N is for nurture. We've got to nurture ourselves. You've got to nurture yourself. You've got to let people in your life know that you need to be nurtured. Okay, you have to avoid neglect. Okay, maybe this is not the summer you're going to do as many PDs as you used to, right? Maybe this is not the summer you're going to refinish the floor in the family room. I don't know. Maybe you're just going to sit and spend a lot of time in a hammock or on a beach or with a book. I want you to resist pressure to be a certain way or to do a certain thing. I want you to do what you need right now. Be mindful of what you need. And I want you to do you, and I want you to do it without apology, with reckless abandon, and do it in a really meaningful way. I want you to feed your soul. So for me, that looks like probably less work this summer, okay? More family time, more just rest, because when you're depleted, you need to rest and restore. So I've already made some plans around that, what that's going to look like. I'm going to do some things. I've got some things going on, but I'm probably going to do it a little differently this year. And I think we're in a different space from last year, because last summer we didn't know what was happening and we were still in a high stress situation around what was going on. Now we're coming to closure, and we know that while next year may not be perfect, it will be more normal than the last year. So that can give us pause, hopefully give us hope. And so I need you to do what you're going to do to nurture and rest and refuel yourself. And do that to invest in yourself for your family, your friends, and for your kids in your education space, whether you're a classroom teacher, a counselor, an administrator, whatever it is. Doing all that is you, again, engaging in responsible decision making to be there for the people that will need you. Okay, so please do you. Do it with reckless abandon. Take those ukulele lessons. Plant a garden, whatever it's going to be. Go on long walks every day. Listen to a trashy podcast. Just do it. Just do it. Okay. And then, let's see. That's a way to manage, right? We're managing stress. We're managing ourselves, and we're investing in a functioning, really positive person that we can be by doing that. Okay. That's a responsible decision. That's going to make you better. Okay. So here we are, almost at the end. I want you to think about growing and going with goals. All right. So I want to talk about some decisions we can make. I recently read an article that really got me. It was fantastic. It was talked about languishing versus flourishing. Okay. And languishing, they define as a sense of stagnation. We're just kind of languishing, and we all are, even though we're not totally depressed, but we're down, we're functioning, but we're not like high functioning. So a lot of us are languishing and have been doing so for some time. Now, flourishing conversely, is when you're living in a state where aspects of one's life are good. Okay. So it's not like perfect, like you're a celebrity and everything's great, but like things are going well, right? Personally, professionally, mentally, physically, with different people in your lives. And so, visually, you think about what it looks like, right? Languishing is we don't look so great, we don't feel so great, maybe feel restless. And flourishing is where we feel good and we're doing things, we're just much more functional. So the difference is that we have to create conditions to move from languishing to flourishing. And this article that I read just offered 7 ideas around this, and I think they're really, really great. So I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to ask you to pick 2 or 3 of those ideas, right? So figure out what works for you. Okay. So assess yourself. Believe it or not, that's what, if you've been journaling and reflecting through this presentation, you've already done that. So you're assessing yourself. Where are you now? What's going on? Getting in touch with your thoughts and feelings so you can figure out how to go forward. Celebrate the small things. That's that savoring. So celebrate like that nothing went wrong one day, or celebrate that you had like your favorite sushi for lunch. Celebrate that you smiled at the person at the coffee shop when you got a coffee in the morning, right? Celebrate that the DoorDash driver, found your house. Whatever it is, like just the tiny things. Celebrate that your pet came up to you and nuzzled a little bit. Really think about and celebrate those little things. They talk about in the article, try Sunday dinner gratitude. What they're saying is developing a gratitude practice is very important. It actually grounds us in what we have, not what we don't have. So it's more positive thinking than negative thinking, which again, will release those positive chemicals in our brain versus stress chemicals. And they say, layer it onto an existing tradition so it doesn't seem so daunting. So in my family, we practice 3 good things. We all name 3 good things like twice a week at dinner. So it's not something different. I didn't buy a journal. I wasn't like, everyone sit down and do 3 good things. It's just while we're sitting there eating dinner. So they're saying if you gather for dinner on Sunday, for instance, can you just round the table, name something that you're grateful for? And it can be something to do with humans, with nature, with the world, with a show you just streamed that made you laugh. It can be anything. And I think that's a really smart way to go about it because it's not a big change or a big fix. It's just layering a little something onto something that exists already in your life. So I think that's smart. Look for community. I think this is really smart too. My husband and I were talking about how we're all kind of like nervous to go back to socializing. Do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? I mean, I'm vaccinated, but I'm still sitting outside at my daughter's sporting event wearing a mask outside when I don't think I need to wear a mask outside. We actually watched an SNL skit recently that had a skit of people going to a party and being completely awkward with each other because they hadn't been out in so long. So look for that community. Like I said, we're trying to revitalize a block party that hasn't happened in a couple years on our street. I'm trying to connect more with certain groups of friends that I haven't connected with as much in the past year. So whatever it is, it can be church, it can be your local pool where you go in the summer, it can be your neighborhood, it can be a support group, anything. Look for that community wherever you can and make those connections with people. I think that's also smart. Find purpose in everyday routines. So whatever you're doing that is part of you, do it well, be proud of it, go back to it and reflect on it and say, yeah, I did these things today. I got this done. I got this accomplished. They can be small things like getting the chores done, getting all that laundry done and folded, whatever it is, find purpose in it and then be proud that you're able to do it. Okay. Nothing is too small to kind of celebrate. And then over here, try something new. We really grow as humans when we try something new. We activate our growth mindset. And when we are successful with something new or we get better at something, we are thrilled. So that can be a way to invigorate yourself during this time and just capitalize on some positivity. And then do 5 good deeds, right? Super small. Can I fill up a water glass for someone in my family? Can I find my son sneakers for him before school so he's not hunting all over the place? Can I give random compliments out at school to kids? Can I write little notes and leave them on their desk or throw into the chat, I'm so glad to see you today? Can you do 5 good things in a day and then see how that makes you feel? We can. These are just small things that can make a big difference. All right. So with that last activity of growing and going with goals, if we think about the ideas, the difference between languishing and flourishing, we're thinking again about our self-management. How do we manage ourselves to go from languishing to flourishing, what is that action we need to take? What are those decisions we can make to help us move the needle from languishing to flourishing? And then embedded in there are relationship skills, because if we're seeking community and doing good deeds, that's going to impact other people in a really positive way. So these all really, I think all the competencies are completely intertwined. So that's, I think we hit on a lot of this in that last activity. So being strong, guys, it's all of these things. It's all of these things. They're all super important. They all matter. I hope that you can dig into some of these and that this helps you move forward in a great way. All right. And let's keep in mind, we are on a road. We're on a road to next year. The road is winding. Thank you so much for being here. I have loved being with you here today. And please reach out to me with any questions or concerns, or if you're stuck on something or you just want to run something by me, I'd love to hear from you. If you made notes during the session or have sketches or anything that you did, if you want to tag me on Twitter while you share them, I would love that. And there's my email and my Twitter handle. I always message people back if they reach out to me. I get messages from teachers around the world, actually, from some of the training and work I do. So I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being here, and good luck on that journey.